Hey everyone, welcome to another live episode of Visual Studio Toolbox Live. I'm your host, Leslie Richardson, and thanks for trickling in. We have a really exciting topic today. We are talking all about the brand new C# devkit extension for VS Code, which will help you massively improve your productivity across all walks of the development cycle from start to finish in VS Code when you're writing your C# applications. So joining me today are Syed and Wendy, who I'm going to add in. Welcome, y'all. How you doing?
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Sweet. So I'm really excited to talk about C# devkit, which has been on the brain, I think, for all of us for a lot of months. And now that it's recently gone GA, now is the time to use it, right? So can you two introduce yourselves and tell us more about what C# devkit is for the uninitiated?
Go ahead, Wendy.
Hi, I am Wendy Breiding. I am a product manager on the C#.NET tooling and experiences team. And I'm going to be excited to talk about devkit. I'm going to let Syed introduce himself, and then I'll answer the question on what is C# devkit.
Okay, great. Yeah, Syed Abraham Hashimi, program manager working on .NET features in various different places there, yeah.
Great. And Wendy, before you do your definition time, shout out to the audience. If you have any questions about the C# devkit as we're chatting, feel free to drop them in the chat and we will do our best to answer them. All right, cool.
Awesome. So if you want to bring up my screen, I'm sharing here, hopefully, the C# devkit is a Visual Studio Code extension that supports C# development, but it's more than just an extension. It's a family of extensions that really provides a rich C# editing experience, whether you're on Windows, Linux, Mac, even code spaces, all in Visual Studio Code. And so I'm going to just kind of go through the various things. C# devkit, when you install it, will come with a set of extensions. First, you get this .NET Runtime Install tool, and this provides C# devkit with a way for it to obtain the .NET runtime needed to work. If you already have the .NET SDK installed, there is a way to tell the extension that it already exists. And so if I go to the settings for the .NET Runtime Install tool, you can see to edit the settings.json, you can give it the existing .NET path. And then here, I already have it set up in mine. So you want to give for both the C# extension and the C# devkit the path that it can use. Once you have that all done, then it won't try to obtain a new runtime every time you are using the extension. Going back, it also installs the C# extension, which provides the base language support for C# development. So this gives us that rich language support. Some of you who may be familiar with C# editing in Visual Studio Code may have recognized this extension. It's been around for a long time. Previously, it was powered by OmniSharp. Over the summer, we updated it to be powered by a language server protocol that then integrates with other open source components like Roslyn and Razor to provide that rich type information and a faster, more reliable C# experience. So this is incredible. Also, what comes with the C# devkit is the IntelliCode for C# devkit, and this provides the AI assisted whole line completions and starred completions that you may be familiar with Visual Studio right in your Visual Studio Code experience. Now, this is an optional. If you don't want to use IntelliCode, you can uninstall this one once you get it. The other two extensions you cannot. They are required to work together. And to add, if you are a GitHub Copilot user, IntelliCode and Copilot work very well together. It will turn off the IntelliCode's whole line completions in order to use GitHub, but the starred completions are awesome to use along with Copilot's whole line completions. And then of course, C# devkit, which provides a lot of really cool features around the solution explorer and quick, easy debugging, integration with test explorer, and all those cool things.
Awesome.
Now, I did want to add, there are a couple other extensions that are a part of the C# devkit family that don't get automatically installed. But if you do mobile development, the .NET MAUI extension for VS Code, you need C# devkit in order to use it. And it provides some really cool added features for debugging and editing your MAUI apps and running them on emulators, simulators, and devices. And then the Unity extension provides the Unity debugger and Unity-specific analyzers, refactoring, and code colorations, which is really cool.
Yeah, I love how expansive it is already, not just in terms of the extensions that come with the C# devkit that further enhance things, but also it just being allowing you to develop C# pretty much anywhere at this point, right? Since it's a VS Code extension, you got multiple OSs that C# development is compatible with.
Yeah, this runs great on Mac, on Linux, and even in code spaces, which has been incredible.
Sweet. And so we've got question number 1 from the chat, which I think we both know the answer for already, but is there a dev kit for F# and Visual Basic too?
So there is existing extensions out in the marketplace that provide great F# support. Ionide extension is great, and so we didn't see the need to expand on that since it was already getting great community support. Visual Basic, we have not heard very much need for, and so we still recommend using Visual Studio for your Visual Basic editing, but we do have the recommend the Ionide for F#.
Awesome. Cool. So kicking things off, how do we set up the C# dev kit once we've installed it? Like, where do we even start?
Yeah, awesome. Great question. So once you got everything installed, we provide this great getting started with C# dev kit walkthrough. And this gives you kind of step-by-step on how to get started. And so first it tells you how to connect your account, which is basically just logging into your Visual Studio account that you already have. The next step in the walkthrough is making sure that you have a .NET SDK installed. So the extension will run without it, but if you try to run your applications, nothing's going to happen. So you want to make sure that you get the right .NET SDK installed. And then it walks you through the basics. You can open an existing folder and show off the great Solution Explorer and get you going. You can create your own .NET project. You can launch and takes you to the documentation on how to run and debug and test, and then straight to the documentation for how to use C# devkit in the VS Code docs. And so getting started is really that easy. As if you see here, I'm in the Explorer tab. I can just click on, there's a new button that'll show once you have C# devkit to create a .NET project. And this is going to bring up a curated list of projects that you can create. And a C# devkit is intended for the web-based, cloud-native libraries and console apps. And then, of course, obviously test projects. And so I can go ahead and create a Blazor server app. It's going to ask me, where do you want to put it? Put it in my repos folder. And then it's going to ask you what you want to call it. Always slower when I'm trying to demo.
Right.
I'm just going to go ahead with Blazor app 1. And so in the background, then it's going to create that app. And then it's going to, once that's up, it's going to bring it up in the normal Explorer that you're used to with Visual Studio Code. And in the background, it's going to start activating all the extensions to make sure that everything's working. And once everything gets loaded, this new Solution Explorer pops up here, and all the magic starts to happen from there. Cool. Here I've got a running app, and so once everything is loaded, I can F5 and it's going to go through and I select the C# as my debugger, and then it's going to build my project and launch it. Of course, I'm sharing my screen. I don't think
Uh-oh. You're cutting out a little
bit. You're going to
bit.
see it just done building. It's going to start playing around with my app, just like that. Always when I build. Why is that?
Right? The demo guys are like, nah, not today. But that is really cool to see how much easier it is, specifically when it comes to just attaching the debugger. I remember before C# devkit, you had to modify like a JSON launch file and all of this that didn't always work, and it would be a real pain. So that's really cool to see. Also, the Solution Explorer, that's a familiar name for the audience who's probably pretty well versed in Visual Studio because of the show. But can you tell us a little bit more about that and what's going on here?
That's perfect. I'm going to hand it over to Syed to show off some of the great things and talk about the Solution Explorer.
Cool. And
okay,
actually, Syed, before we do that, we do have many questions in chat. Thanks for all of the great questions. So first up on the questions of different projects being supported, does devkit support .NET framework, especially for non-SDK projects?
So, did you want to take that one, Wendy?
I can answer that, or you can. It's up to you. I guess so. C# devkit does allow for you to work with your .NET framework projects, but there's a little trick that you have to do. It's not the Solution Explorer will not load. The integration with the Test Explorer will not happen. You have to, when you try to load a non-SDK style project, it's going to pop up a toast that says, hey, you're using an unsupported project. We highly recommend you upgrade it. But if you can't, you can set and use the C# extension. So once you click use C# extension, it's going to ask you to reload. And then it's going to, the C# extension in the background can handle and still give you all your IntelliSense and the coloring and all of the great things that you're used to. But the C# devkit features will be disabled for those projects.
Gotcha. And then question number 2, going back to the subscription question, do you need a Visual Studio subscription to use C# devkit?
So Visual Studio subscription is part of the license for C# devkit. Now, community and open source is all free. And so the only people who have to pay for anything are those that are using it for those companies of larger than 5 people. You can have a pro license or an enterprise license for Visual Studio and be able to take advantage of all of these great things.
Yeah. So, if you're using VS Community already, then you're golden. You have an account, you're ready to go. Just log in. And then last question. Do custom templates also show on the menu when you click create new project in C# devkit?
Not today. Yeah. So
not yet.
Yeah. So what we have in C# devkit today for new project is a kind of it's essentially a hard-coded list of templates which are available. But we are working on enhancing the support for new project and new item. And we're hoping in the future we'll be able to show custom templates there, just like we do in Visual Studio, but it might take a while for us to get there. I think before that, we'll add support for customizing the parameters during the new project flow, and then slowly start expanding the kind of breadth of the features here, yeah.
Awesome.
So what we want to do is listen to you all, and near the end, I'm going to show how you can submit feedback and what's important to you. Please submit feedback and product enhancements and upvote things on our repo, which I'll show near the end as well. And so if we hear that custom templates is more important than some of the other things, we will pay attention and prioritize based on the feedback that we're hearing from customers.
Great. Cool. So Syed, it sounds like you're up to talk about some project stuff.
I am up. Yeah, that's
Awesome.
right. My turn. Let's go and switch the screen there, and then we'll get started with the demo here. All right, so now you can see my screen. So now what I've done is I've basically just opened an empty folder here. This is the regular VS Code Explorer, so we can see there's no kind of files or folders there. So let's go ahead and get started by creating a new project. Hold on a second, I clicked the wrong button. Control-Shift-P. All right, so new project here, and I think Wendy showed you how you can do that from the Solution Explorer, but the gesture to get to the command palette is Control-Shift-P. We'll keep it very simple here. We'll create a console app, and then I'll go ahead and give this a name. When you do that with when Solution Explorer is not open, it does have a small kind of delay there. So we'll say my console, and then we'll choose the default directory. If you wanted to kind of customize that directory, you can also do that with this option here, but we're going to take the defaults for this one.
Oh, and say, would you mind zooming in just a little bit on VS Code as a whole? You can just hit Control plus.
Oh, sure, no problem.
Perfect.
Is that
yeah, that's great.
Okay, great, thank you. So yeah, now we can see that, the project was successfully created, and it also did create a solution file for me as well. So now let's go ahead and take a look. I'll go ahead and kind of minimize that one. We'll kind of work with the Solution Explorer here. So I've got my solution as well as my project, and then my file here. So let's go ahead and add a solution folder to this. So we'll say shared. Then we'll add this for our kind of class libraries. I showed you how we can do Control-Shift-P to get to the command palette and create a new project. Another alternative is to actually just kind of click New Project in the Solution Explorer. You can either do that on a solution folder or the solution itself. This one for the solution itself. All right, we'll go ahead and create a new project. We'll do a library here, class library. We'll create like a shared kind of class library there. And it does pick up on that path here that we clicked on. So that's the node that I clicked on in the Solution Explorer. I'll call this shared lib. And then once again, I'll go ahead and take that default directory, which was the shared folder there. All right, so now the project has been created here. It's created a class1.cs, and I'm just going to go ahead and delete this folder, this file here. So I'll get rid of that one. And then we'll add a new file here. So here, I'll click the plus button on the project where I'm trying to add this file to. And then we get our list of item templates here. And this is also a hard-coded list right now. But, once again, just like projects, we can also expand that in the future. All right, I'll go ahead and create my class here. Let's create a contact class here. It's going to be a very kind of basic demo here. Okay, let's add a couple properties here. So I'll say string, first name. And I think after I did the zooming, this got pretty... let me just make my fonts a little bit smaller here. This is like...
huge.
Really crazy after I did the zooming in to VS Code in general here.
There you go.
And I don't know if you noticed, but for those that are not that familiar with VS Code, you can use the same kind of snippets that were available in Visual Studio. Most of those work in VS Code as well. So I'm using the prop one here. So those are called snippets in Visual Studio, and I forget what they're called in VS Code there. Okay, let me create a, we'll do a full name here as well. So we'll say get, and then this is going to return first name, and then last name. And then boom. Okay, so that should be good. Yeah, sure. All right, we got some kind of warnings here. Let's get rid of these warnings here. So let's go ahead and do that. This is another cool trick. It works in like most editors and IDEs. You can highlight some code and then control and then mouse drag. I don't know if you know that, but wow.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
When I learned that like 15 years ago, man, that saved me so much time. But anyway, that works
in
like,
on the VS too?
Yeah, it works in the vast majority of editors and IDEs, including Visual Studio there. Okay, so now I've got my contact class here. So what I'll do is I want to go ahead and create a project reference here to the class library. So I will right-click on my console and then say Add Project Reference. It will show me the projects which are currently loaded in the solution here. So I've got that shared lib. I'll go ahead and click Enter on that one. And then I should have expanded that node. So now that I've added that project reference, I will see the project node under dependencies, and then I can see that shared lib. If there's no project reference, you just won't see that node there, basically. So that's how that works. And currently, we don't have any functionality in this node here, but we'll add some functionality there later on. All right, let me go to my program.cs, and then we'll go ahead and kind of modify this a little bit. So let's go ahead and use that contact. Contact equals new contact. And then notice it will add me the using statement automatically. So
Nice.
that's pretty handy. Go ahead and do this. Last name. And then we'll also just take care of this one real quick as well. We're just going to update this hello world to where it's going to print out that full name there for us. Okay, contact that full name, and I think that's right. Okay, great. And if you're new to C# devkit, whenever you try to like do a debugging session or you're trying to run your app, make sure you've got a .cs file loaded up here. And then pick the C# option here. So I'll go ahead and pick that. And then we should see it say hello and then my name. If all goes well. Okay, hold on a second. Is that extra squiggly here? Hold on a second. So let's get rid of that. Is there an extra squiggle over here? Nope. All right, so I got something going on over here. Hold on. I just can't see anything. Okay, here it is. All right. Did I mess that up? Is that correct now? There it is. All right, so that's fine.
Yeah, I never remember where to put that semicolon.
Yeah, I know.
Going with that.
All right, there we go. All right, let's try this. All right, so this should say hello and then my name. Where's the, here it is, okay. All right, so there it is, hello, Syed Hashimi. So yeah, that was great. And then let me show some quick kind of debugging features here too, I guess, real quick.
Before you do transition over to the debugging stuff, real quick on the Solution Explorer. So by default, when you open up VS Code, you get like the workspace where you can do all of your files. But really, what's the main difference between the Solution Explorer and that default window? Or why should somebody decide to take a look at Solution Explorer?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question there. So yeah, so the difference between Solution Explorer and the regular Explorer here. Let's go ahead and open up the regular Explorer. So the regular Explorer is really just a file, is really just a folder view here. So whatever I see in the Windows Explorer is what I'm going to see here, and I'll have that same structure, right? So if I contrast that over here, so now what I don't, so let me kind of make this to where we can see it a little bit. So I created this solution folder that's called shared. Well, yeah, so now everything's kind of reflected here. So it depends, right? So if your solution is set up to where your solution folders are real folders, then you'll get a similar kind of layout there. But here, let's take a look at this, right? When I expand that shared and shared lib folder, I see bin and obj and the file explorer, but I don't see those in my solution explorer here, right? So that's one difference is, you know, for the files that you're likely to not directly interact with or directly edit inside this editor, those will not appear in the solution explorer there. And then another difference is the structure here, right? So let me make that one smaller again. So things like, let's say, you know, the dependencies, right? Like, you know, what are the analyzers that I've currently got connected to this project, and what framework or frameworks is it targeting? And then the references, you know, things like the project reference as well as the NuGet reference, those sorts of things. So those are different. And then there's also specific gestures here that's enabled on the Solution Explorer that are not available directly through the Explorer here. Like, you know, for example, adding the project reference, right? Or adding the solution folder. Those are some examples of that. But it's really like a preference thing, right? You know, like let's say if you're used to using Visual Studio and then with a Solution Explorer that shows you the projects and how your solution is laid out, then a Solution Explorer, you know, might be very helpful for you, right? But let's say, you know, if you've been using Visual Studio Code for years and you're used to the Explorer view here, you can do the vast majority of your work without even doing anything in Solution Explorer here, right? Like,
right.
For example, I can close that and then I can do everything that I need, right? I can create a new project. So I do Control-Shift-P. I create a new project here. Let's do a we'll just do like a web app or something, right? Let's just do a regular kind of web app here. Yeah, web app 1. So it's just that different, whatever the preference is, right? So if you like working with Solution Explorer, work with Solution Explorer. If you like working with the File Explorer, use the File Explorer.
Mhm.
But,
You can use both at the same time if you want.
Yeah, yeah, and then both at the same time too. But know that, Solution Explorer is doing things behind the scenes to kind of support everything that you're
Right.
doing there, right? Like,
Yeah.
when I added my web application 1, even though I wasn't interacting with Solution Explorer, I was interacting with the Explorer and the command palette. The project was created and then added to the solution, right? So, so what's great about this is, if you're working with colleagues and let's say, you use Visual Studio Code, but some of your colleagues use Visual Studio, you can, for the most part, pretty much ignore the Solution Explorer if you want and keep working the same way that you've been for years, right? So we're trying to meet users where they're at, and some users that want to try out Visual Studio Code, they've told us, hey, I really need a Solution Explorer type of functionality there, so that's why we're bringing that. But the vanilla Visual Studio Code File Explorer is great as well, and you can do a lot of things there too. So
Like-
yeah, so I think that's the kind of high level difference there. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I think I love this Solution Explorer because it does streamline and filter out a lot of these files that I don't always care about when I'm just interacting with my projects. But yeah, there might be some cases where I want to use the default workspace, whether it's because I want to manually edit a CS proj file easily or for whatever reason. So yeah, I think having both
Yeah.
is great. And also, before you go into debugging again, got a little piece of feedback. We need to view the file and folder icons. I know you can see them when you hover over existing files that you've got, but I think it would be cool if you could have the option of that docked to some.
We should have icons over here. Yeah, so we got the we should be using the regular vscode icons here for these files here. So I got the C# file there. I got the little JSON one here, and then the more generic one there as well. So I think we do have. If there's any particular file or folder, we don't have folder icons, but I don't know if that's a thing. And is that a thing in VS Code? Folder icons? No, I don't think so. But if there's any particular file that you feel like is not showing you the correct icon, please do let us know about that. And we are using the Visual Studio Code icons here, not the Visual Studio icons. So that is something to keep in mind there. So yeah. And then when Wendy gets back to the feedback area, it'd be great to submit a feedback if you're seeing a file that doesn't have an icon there that should have an icon. Yeah.
Awesome.
Was there
Cool.
any other questions from the chat, Leslie?
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, great. All right, let's do it then. So let's kind of keep going here. So I just added a little kind of loop over here so I can do a little bit of debugging real quick. And I'm not like a debugging and VS Code expert here, but I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do my best try here. So yeah, I just added a little loop here so that way we've got some additional code to kind of work with here. I put my mouse here and then I just clicked F9, right, to create that breakpoint, just like you would do in Visual Studio.
Yeah. Also, just like Visual Studio, I want to point out the breakpoints window that's in that run and debug pane, which is a really nice place to manage all your breakpoints in one spot.
Let me see if I can get to that.
It's under the run and debug.
Here. Yeah. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, right. Yep. Yeah.
Yep, under breakpoints.
And then, you know what? This is something I put a feedback on it. You can't modify the size of that one, but
yeah, no, I wish you could expand that up too. Yeah, because I was trying to do that
just for demo purposes, I wanted to just bring it up here so people could see it better.
Down there.
We don't create features for demos, though, I guess. But anyways, all right. So let me go ahead and kind of continue. So yeah, what I mentioned before was you can either use the shortcut F9 or you can right-click and add a breakpoint or a conditional breakpoint as well. All right, so I'll go ahead and add a breakpoint to that one. Let's go ahead and F5 that thing. So yeah, we'll pick my console. So now, this is also another difference here that we didn't see before, right? So last time when I did an F5, I didn't get prompted for what kind of project to run here. And the reason is because C# devkit figured out that we only have one runnable project here, right? So I had my shared library project, which is not runnable. And then I had my console project, which is runnable. So it just automatically ran the runnable project. After adding the web application project, now I've got more than one runnable project. So the C# dev kit will go ahead and pause here and then go ahead and ask you to pick a project to run. So I'll pick my console. And then it's going to go ahead and run that with the debugger. And then this breakpoint should be hit here pretty soon. All right, so now we've got the breakpoint hit. Okay, so let's give a little kind of basics about debugging here in Visual Studio Code. So after I did the F5, it started running my application and then attached a debugger, and then it hit the breakpoint here. So this is what it looks like when a breakpoint is hit, and it's got this little gold kind of arrow around it, right? A regular breakpoint looks just like that. All right, so now here you've got this additional toolbar. So here is where you're going to do your debugging actions here, right? Like I can click continue, and continue means the same thing it does in Visual Studio. It means go ahead and keep running my app. And here the count is at 2. Let me continue, and then it'll hit the breakpoint again. And then I'm back, and now I'm up to 3. You can also step over, and a lot of the keyboard shortcuts you'll notice are the same as Visual Studio. In some cases, they're not exactly the same, but for the most part, a lot of the shortcuts will be the same. Step over, step into, step out, restart, and then stop the debugger there.
Yep.
And then if you wanted your app to continue running, you just wanted to detach the bugger, then you'll disconnect here.
Also, I want to give a shout out to the other kinds of breakpoints that you can create here. Like you're in a while loop. Let's say you wanted to get to iteration 72, which would take forever if you just hit step 1. But yeah, you can just make a conditional breakpoint, which is pretty nice. Yeah, so you can say 17.
Let's try it. Is that how it works? I never tried this, so let's see if that works.
It worked yesterday.
Count is at 3, and now my count is at 17.
Hey, okay, cool.
All right, so there's the conditional breakpoint there. And what about log point? Does it just kind of send a message to the console there?
Yeah.
Is that what that one does?
It works as a print statement without having to modify your code to write the print
Okay,
statement.
yeah, great. Okay, great. Yeah, I haven't used that. There's so many features I haven't used because we're always kind of rolling out new features here. So yeah, while we're on debugging, let's go ahead and kind of take a look at some of the support that you have here. So this is the breakpoint window that Wendy and Leslie were talking about earlier. So here's how you can view and manage all of your breakpoints if you want to edit that breakpoint or delete that breakpoint, or create new breakpoints. For me, it's easier to just do it in the code, but whatever your preference is there. And then inside the locals window, so this is also very similar to the locals window in Visual Studio. It shows you the variables that are local to this. Let me see if I can step out. So I will step out. Okay, anyways, I clicked the wrong button there. But anyways, let's do that one more time. All right, so let's go ahead and F5 it again. My console.
Oh, while that's building real quick, question in the chat. Is it possible to run multiple projects at once to do debugging? I don't believe it is currently, but that is a great piece of feedback because that is something that you can do in VS.
Let me do a thread.sleep here. All right, we'll try it out. So I'll save that. I thought you could do more than one. All right, so now this is sleeping, or it's running. Now it's sleeping. I'll F5 again. Oh, I can't. Let me go back here. Can I not run it again? Control-Shift-V. No. Okay. Yeah. Anyways, guess not. There are ways to configure that, but you'll have to play around with your VS Code settings file, I believe. But yeah, if that's something that people are kind of very interested in, and if you want us to streamline the multi-project start scenario, that'd be a great piece of feedback for us to receive. A hack, I guess, is if you want, you can always run your app from the terminal, I think there's kind of 2 hacks here. One is to run one of the apps on the terminal and then debug the project that you want. You should also be able to attach. But let me see if I can. Let me just try it one time real quick. Yeah, so let me see if I can go here. Yeah, see, okay, hold on a second. So now it's running, right? So now I can do it again, right? Oh no, that's the debugger. Okay, yeah, I guess not. Yeah, okay. Yeah, let's pick that one. Okay, so now if I run, does that work? Yeah, okay, I think it was, yeah, it might be possible. I'm not totally sure. Like I said, I'm not a debugging expert here, so I don't know everything that's possible here, but I wouldn't be surprised if you can get more than one. And it looked like I did have more than one running there. So I think it is possible. We just don't have the right people here to kind of talk through that here.
Yeah, it requires taking and setting up your own launch.json file and not using the automatic connected one, which it only allows for you to select one at a time. But using your own launch.json file, you can set that up to have it launch more than one at a time.
I think I just figured it out. So let me go back here. I'll stop that one. All right, so what I'll do is I will go ahead and run, let me go back to the beginning here. I'll run the web app first because that one's just going to keep running forever, right? So I will F5 this. Oh, it just picked my console app again. Okay, that's fine. Let's do it another way here. So what I'll do is I'll go to the debugger here, and then I'll pick C# web app here, and then run. And then this is going to launch my web app. And it launched it on a different screen, but I'll bring it into the page here so we can see that that's working. So there's my web app. And then I can go here and say C#, my console, and then click the green play button. And now let's go back to, and I can still see that this one's still working, right? So there it is. So now we've got two. That's it. And did that one stop on 17? Let's see, 11, 12. It should stop on 17, I think. 17, yeah. Yeah, there we go. So that's the way that you would do it in like a one-off kind of scenario. But then Wendy was mentioning that you can kind of handcraft a launch settings.json to kind of duplicate that as needed there, yeah. Okay, great. So that's what we had. What else do we have here for today? I did the contact. I did the right line. That I think let's go back to the Solution Explorer and see what else did I miss over here. I think one thing that we didn't talk about was file nesting. So that's also another difference is the file nesting. So in the File Explorer, there is no nesting here. Just the files just kind of show up there. Let me go to the web app one. For example, appsettings.development.json, appsettings.json. Whereas in the Solution Explorer, I do get that nesting experience here. And the nesting is the nesting support is very basic right now, but we will kind of update that nesting support to be more consistent with Visual Studio itself. And let's take a look. I think that is really the most of it, but for users that are there, there's different types of users out there, right? There's like the keyboard, there's like the mouse kind of driven developers there who like to use the mouse and click on buttons and gestures. And for those types of developers, we have things like the context menu, and then, what? I can get baby to do it for you. So we've got the gestures here on the context menu, and then for the developers that don't like to use their mouse, they're just kind of keyboard oriented, we've got the support from the command palette there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so I think that's kind of a general overview of the Solution Explorer support here. And yeah, any questions or comments?
Yeah, we got a couple questions. So let's see. Let's start with, here we go. Hot reload. Do we have plans to add? We currently have it under like an experimental version, right?
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, we've heard a lot about hot reload. That's an area that we are kind of looking at and seeing what can we bring. We don't have any news to share with specific dates or anything yet, but yeah, that is a highly requested feature that we are looking at now.
Awesome. Let's see, another question that we had. This is kind of more related to Maui, but are there options for visual design like in Visual Studio using Maui?
That's a great question. I think when I look at the Visual Studio Code users, they're more kind of code oriented there as opposed to kind of designer oriented, right? So I think, most of our kind of efforts for design are going into Visual Studio itself as opposed to VS Code. But, that's another thing we would have to, if we did receive a good amount of feedback, then that would be an area that we would look at. But we're not doing anything with respect to designers and C# devkit today.
Gotcha. All right. Other questions before we jump into, I think, testing, which, Wendy, I'm sure you've got a lot to say there. Is using C# devkit the alternate way to develop without VS for Mac, which has now been deprecated?
Yeah, I think it's an alternative, right? So yeah, if you're on Mac OS and, if you've been using Visual Studio for Mac, then, I think C# devkit is a pretty good home, right? With that being said, it's not exactly the same, right? Visual Studio for Mac is an IDE, Visual Studio Code is an editor, but, we're trying to bring the same kind of features and functionality to both of these kind of products here, right? So whatever you are able to do in Visual Studio for Mac should be possible with Visual Studio Code. And that's another area where we're going to be relying pretty heavily on user feedback. And, if you were able to use Visual Studio for Mac and you're having hard times with certain things in VS Code, please do let us know about that. And then we'll have to prioritize the work as the feedback comes in.
Cool.
Yeah, just to add a little bit to that, we are over the next several months as we're approaching that deprecation date for Visual Studio for Mac. We're continually working on making sure that we have the ability for those loyal customers to continue to work successfully on their Macs in using C# devkit. And so, as Syed said, please, if you run into issues while you're using your Mac, please submit feedback so that we know and can really prioritize those things that are important.
Awesome. All right, cool. So shall we start talking about testing?
Awesome. Yeah, testing. And I wanted to just show a couple of other things. So if we can switch over to my screen.
There we go.
Awesome. So some of the great things that the C# extension offers, there's a ton of different go to definition, go to implementation, find all references, renames, refactorings, all the different things that you're used to are all available with C# devkit and the C# extension. So I can click here, and this is going to take me over to that weather forecast class. And so I can see right away, jumping right to things without having to hunt and find which folder was that in and all of the different things. And if I don't like the name of this, I can click to rename. And I can, try to call it description. If I do that shift enter, it's going to show me all the places that it needs to make changes to do that rename. So it's going to find where I've referenced all the references to that summary field and allow for me to then apply those changes across all of them. And so it's frozen. It's got the StreamYard thing is right over the top of it, and so
so frustrating.
I'm not able to.
We'll get the idea though, right? It's like,
there we go. So lots of cool things there that the C# extension provides, and the comforts of Visual Studio. As you saw, a lot of the IntelliSense, as Syed was talking, the stars, the completions, all of the different things that it provides are pretty cool. Jumping over to testing, the Test Explorer integration that C# devkit provides with Visual Studio Code allows for it to visualize all of your tests. And so instead of having to go into the terminal and .NET testing, you can see all of your tests that are available here. You can run all, you can run some, you can jump directly to the test. So again, I don't have to. Sorry, I've done some modifications since this one, so it's not finding it. I have to rebuild to get all the tests. back in place. It does rely upon the DLLs being available and the builds being there for you. And so when you write all your tests, it won't automatically appear in that test window. You do have to perform a build first, and then it can then rediscover and find all the tests and run them successfully. So here I've got a failing one, and so then I don't know why that's not working. Of course, I'm on a pre-release version of both C# devkit and and Visual Studio Code. So
it's a fun cocktail.
I've left things wide open here to the demos, guys. But so you can see it provides you with the information directly in line, so you can make some adjustments. And of course, is true. False is never is true, but sometimes it's not that easy. So in here, you can start a debug session, which runs the test as before, but it will place a breakpoint right where that failure is, so you can see what's happening in the background, and it'll stop right there, and you can see where all the variables are and everything is happening where that breakpoint hits, which can help you really understand what's going on with your tests.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then also that comes with additional command palette commands to choose from related to testing too, right?
Exactly. So yeah, the test
works for me if I do tests plural.
Yeah, so all of these are Visual Studio Code commands, so they're not specific to C# devkit. So if you're used to running tests in other languages, the same commands are available now when you're doing your C# editing.
Sweet. And I think what's cool about that is because the Test Explorer existed before C# devkit, right? Yep. But yeah, so we didn't just copy paste the Visual Studio experience and just call it a day into VS Code, which is nice. It's been organically integrated with the VS Code experience.
And one of the really cool things that I love about Visual Studio Code's Test Explorer is it provides this history of your test results. So sometimes you're working through and you're continually running your tests as you're making changes to your code. And then all of a sudden, one of your tests starts failing and you can see that history. So you know, okay, that's when I made this change when everything started failing, which is hugely beneficial and helpful when you're doing things, which is awesome.
That was really nice. And I also like just the ability to be able to run and debug all of these inline in the editor, like the little green icons that show up once you have to recognize. That's awesome.
Yes. And I'm using a pre-release demo build and it's not showing up right now, but there's usually little play buttons right here that start showing right now.
The latest GA release version, y'all. There's little green icons that should be appearing by your
test. They were there this morning.
Sweet. Yep. Demigods are fickle creatures. Yeah. Always.
Yes. Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to show is that we mentioned, like, your feedback is the most important. The best way for you to provide feedback is going to the help menu and reporting an issue. Here, if it's a bug report, select bug report. If it's an enhancement request, select feature request, select an extension, and then C# devkit. And this will submit an issue directly to our GitHub repo, which I believe we're going to paste the link to the GitHub repo in the chat. All of the issues there are open public, so you can go through and provide more information about if you see something that an issue that somebody else is having. You can provide your details as well. That's the way of upvoting, is to comment. If it's just as simple as, I'm having the exact same problem, that lets us know that it's happening. If you could provide more details, like if it's on Mac, Linux, or Windows, which versions of the extensions you're using. If you submit through VS Code, through that bug report, it's going to provide us with all of that information automatically, which is why we highly recommend you go through that so that we can get that information to better help us troubleshoot the issues that you're having. But if you're upvoting, you're commenting on somebody else's that you're having the same problem, please include that information to help us get started and have a better idea of what's going on.
Awesome. And in addition to that, I guess on the topic of feedback, I did have another question in the chat. So does the C# Dev Kit bring the same, let me show you how to improve your code features that Visual Studio has? I'm assuming that's kind of referring to stuff like Copilot chat, which does exist in VS Code and is compatible with C# Dev Kit, and then other kinds of additional insights that features are starting to add in VS land.
Yeah, so there are a lot of the great analyzers in light bulbs and all of that. So if I had, let me just bring up a different file. If I had here like an unnecessary using statement, the light bulb is going to come up and it's going to give you that, oh, this is unnecessary, you can remove it. All of those do all of the different analyzers that you have from Roslyn and Razor are also available here in C# Dev Kit to help you make your code better. If you're using an old way of doing things in C#, all of those problems or suggestions are available through us. As Leslie said, also, if you are a GitHub Copilot subscriber, the GitHub Copilot chat and regular Copilot extensions work great with C# Dev Kit, and so you can continue.
Cool. And then another question about hot reload. Can you show us where to go to enable hot reload, because it's currently available as more of a preview feature, so it's not.
Yeah, so hot reload is in preview. We are working as fast as we can on getting that. I think it's in C#, right?
I usually just go to the settings that's in the bottom left-hand corner of the window, but yeah, it works too.
We do it, yeah. So here you can turn on hot reload to make it available, and so it's off by default right now, so you'd have to come in to turn it on. And so then if you go to debug your am I in a web app? I don't even know. Yes, I think I am. So if I go to debug, usually the little hot reload icon will appear. Again, demo gods are not working for me today. But there's a little icon that usually appears right between here. That's like the flame. That's the hot reload. There's a hot reload output that will appear in one of the outputs. And for some reason, it's not turning on for me today, but you can see it'll tell you for each change you make, it'll say if it's hot reload eligible, or it'll tell you if you need to restart in order to make it work. Again, still in preview, so I was still working on some of the kinks and bugs on that one to get it to work successfully, but it is coming along and should be available soon.
Cool. Oh, real quick, did you enable the hot reload setting that's below? I think hot reload verbosity. There's like another one. There you go. Because I think that's the one that you want to actually.
That's the one I missed.
So you might have to restart.
Yep, I will have to restart. The cool thing, you can. So many different ways to start. There's the little buttons, all the different ways that Syed was showing you that you can run and debug from pretty much anywhere in VS Code.
The command palette has all of it too, yeah.
And there it is.
Yay, cool. As for whether it works or not right now, is up in the air. But what we're sharing your feedback for is is all about. And also
Yes.
on the topic of feedback, I think the reason why you should specifically submit your feedback through VS Code instead of just the repo, which we did link to, if that's what you want to do on a direct level, is that if you do it through VS Code, you by default get your system info shared with us. So that decreases the amount of time that it will take for both sides to get what we want. We ultimately want to help address the issue that you're experiencing, and you want to make sure the issue gets addressed, obviously. So the less time we have to spend doing a back and forth trying to get any additional info from you in order to accomplish that task, the better. So,
and another thing I wanted to add there is, I know that the VS Code Marketplace allows for you to do reviews. Reviews are great. We love them, but they don't give us the opportunity to have the conversation and back and forth with you. And so if you do have feedback, submitting it through that feedback mechanism so that we can have that conversation with you over the repo and make sure that your we can see from the initial report all the way through till we've got bits on your system that are finally working and get that closure all the way through. We love that back and forth with you, and we'd love that better than the reviews.
Awesome. And where can folks go to learn more about C# devkit and get started with their own C# journey in VS Code?
So in the marketplace, the C# devkit provides all the latest information there in the README. Let me just close this so you can see more. There's a lot of really good information, including links to our getting started and the VS Code docs for C# devkit are all available there here in the README in the marketplace.
Yep. Yeah. If you haven't been to specifically the VS Code docs in the past couple months or prior to devkit existing, you should go check them out again. They have been updated like a lot for the C# language area specifically. And that is a great resource to get you started from everything to project management all the way up to testing. So go check it out. Brand new documentation. All right, cool. Well, if no one has anything else, Syed and Wendy, thank you so much for coming on the show. This is really exciting. I'm excited to see devkit finally be available in general release mode. That's really exciting. That's a long time coming.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having us. This was great. We love sharing all the hard work that the team has done to get this far, and we really want everybody's feedback. So please keep it coming so that we can keep making this better.
Yep. And if you want even more content on C# devkit, I don't know, .NET Conf is coming. Who knows? Cool. So until then, thank you so much, everyone. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Thanks for all the awesome questions. And until next time, happy coding, y'all.
Thank you.